At the Michigan SBDC Network, our mission is simple: to help businesses grow and succeed. Our consulting, training, and information services make it easier for businesses to reach their potential. Whether you're currently in operation or just starting out, we have the right tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. Visit us online to get started on your path to success today.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, and it also happens to be SBDC Day. I'm JD Collins, and I'm the State Director for the Michigan SBDC, and welcome to this event that we're calling Ask a Consultant. Now, we had one earlier today, and I'm really excited for what you're about ready to experience here over the next hour. We've brought together a group of experts to help answer any questions you may have. Maybe they're pandemic related, maybe they're business related, and they might be questions about next steps in your business. So we have the experts here to answer those questions today. You might ask yourself, well, what is SBDC Day all about? Well, it's really a celebration that brings together about 1,000 SBDC centers from across the nation and hundreds of thousands of clients. And so we wanted to take this day to celebrate and offer our services to you. Now, today's event does include consultants from all across the state. And we ask you, if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead and submit that in the comment section. So I am going to give you a little bit of background about the SBDC before we throw it over to today's host, Ed Gardner. And I'm going to give you a brief overview. First of all, the SBDC covers all 83 counties in Michigan, and we do that through relationships with universities and host institutions all the way from Houghton, Michigan, down to, and that's done through Michigan Tech University, all the way to the southeast portion of our state, in a relationship with Eastern Michigan University and every county in between. We also service small businesses with both our tech and our growth teams as well. And we have experts from both of those teams here. And we're able to do this at no cost to the consumer due to cooperative agreements that we have with both the SBA and the MEDC. So what do we really do? Well, we want to make Michigan the best place for you to start and grow a business. And we do that through relationships with entrepreneurs who are looking to start businesses or with people who have existing businesses that are interested in growing. And I'm going to hand it over now to your MC for the day, Ed Garner, and he is the Regional Director for our West Michigan Division. Take it over, Ed.
Well, thank you, JD. And once again, good evening, everyone, and happy SBDC Day. So let me just do a quick check. So I've got my SBDC sign, got my SBDC shirt, SBDC mug, got my SBDC mug, and let's see what else I got. I got my SBDC pen. So I think we're ready. I think we're ready to get into this session of what we're calling Ask a Consultant. As JD said, it's also St. Patty's Day too. So just want to say to you, may the luck of the Irish be with you. Okay, great. So this next hour, we're hoping this is going to be informational and also entertaining. And we're going to try to answer as many of your business questions as we can during this next hour. We know we may not get to everybody's question on air, so we will respond to those questions sometime after the broadcast. So keep putting your questions in the comment box as we go along. We'll make sure to get them answered either on air or sometime after the broadcast today. So, did you guys know that the SBDC has been around for over 35 years in the state of Michigan? Yeah, 35 years. And we currently have over 100 full-time and contractual business consultants that can help you launch, grow, innovate, or transition your business. I kind of call this the Too Legit strategy. LGIT. Launch, grow, innovate, and transition. Now, just a moment, I'm going to introduce you to 9 of our top consultants and managers across the state who have a great deal of expertise in a number of fields. But before I do, I want to mention 3 things to you. So this morning, I only mentioned 2 things to that group, so you get a bonus surprise. You're going to get 3 things I'm going to mention. So first of all, many of your questions may be readily answered in what we call our Guide to Operating in starting a small business. This is kind of what the guide looks like. And we want to make sure everybody gets a copy of this guide. So to do so, you would go to our website and you can download the guide from there. I believe it's in a couple of languages as well. And it's kind of a resource guide that's updated every single year to have the most current information. That answers a lot of your questions right there. So number 2, we do also do a lot of training and workshops. Most of it's all virtual at this time, but it's on a lot of different topics, which can answer a lot of your questions as well. And many of these webinars can be viewed 24/7 if you go to our on-demand library. Now, how do you do that? Once again, you go to our website, spdcmichigan.org, and you can register for a training, or you can download our on-demand library of numerous trainings that we have to offer. So always check that to see kind of what's coming up. And then thirdly, we offer our one-on-one business consulting. Now, this is to discuss individually your specific business needs. And this consulting is both free, as JD mentioned, and it's confidential as well. Free and confidential. Okay, so great. With that, now I want to introduce you to our panel that we have this evening. So we have 9 guests we're going to bring on screen one at a time, and then they're all going to remain as we jump in and answer all your questions in the next 60 minutes or so. So first up, from our Lake Huron region, we have Mike Nunley. And Mike is the Associate Regional Director for that region. Hi, Mike. He must be muted. We'll get him on later. Okay, great. Next up.
Leave it to me to screw up the mute already, Ed.
Great. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the broadcast. Next on the broadcast from our capital region in the Lansing area, we have Senior Business Consultant Daryl Horton. Daryl Horton. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. If you can hear me.
Welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
Great. Super. Next up, we have from our Greater Washington region, a Senior Business Consultant, Sean Presley.
Hi, Ed.
Welcome, Sean.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Next to the broadcast from our West Michigan region, we have Business Consultant Marie Elliott.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Ed. Glad to be
Marie.
here.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I see you got your lovely green on in honor of Patrick's Day. All right, like that. Okay, great. Next up is our business consultant from the Southeast region, Ms. Rita Hillman. Rita Hillman.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Ed. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us, Rita. Welcome aboard. Great. Next, we have from our Northwest region up in the Traverse City area, business consultant Gretchen Swanson.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hey, Gretchen, welcome to the broadcast. Great. Our final 3 panelists are all from our statewide services. And so I'm going to introduce them one at a time. First is our tech team manager, Alan Piet.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege to be with you.
Great. Welcome, Alan, to the program. Next up is our business growth team manager serving the whole state, Christy Kosovo.
Hi there. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Ed.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you too. May the luck of the Irish be with you.
I love it.
And finally, we have our business growth consultant on our business growth team, Julie Oldham. Julie Oldham.
Thanks, Ed, and hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in on this Green Day and for Greenbacks, and good luck for everyone.
Great, thank you, Julie. So that's our great, fantastic team. So, so the way we're going to do this, I've got I got a bunch of questions here. So these are all questions that people sent in prior to the program. However, you still can enter your questions in the comments section. We'll take some of those along the way as we go. We covered a lot of these this morning, but these are kind of brand new since this morning. So if you're joined into the morning session and you're now at the evening session, you're going to get a taste of some new topics that we discovered since that session. So we're going to jump right into it with the Q&A. I'll direct the questions to a specific consultant or consultant to ask, and others may chime in as well. So let's begin. So I lined these up. You can see they're kind of like a deck of cards here. So I'm gonna pull them back together. And then you always say, pick a card, pick a card. How do you do that? So I'm gonna pick a card and see what we get. So, this question is from Calvin. Calvin said he would like to start a marijuana micro business in his community. And so he's trying to find out if the SBDC can help him with financing for that endeavor. So I'm gonna direct this question to Christy. Christy, you got an answer for Calvin?
I can try, Ed. I'll do my best. But at the moment, because marijuana is still considered a controlled substance under the Federal Controlled Substances Act, and we are federally funded, we cannot actually work with marijuana-based businesses, and that's direct marijuana businesses. So businesses that are directly selling marijuana products or that are selling products for the marijuana industry specifically, such as grow equipment or consumer type products that are intended to help someone consume marijuana. We can't work with them. We can work with industrial hemp products or CBD products that are hemp based. But for the moment, and the reason I say for the moment is because I am aware of some pending legislation that may change that possibly this calendar year, but let's wait and see. Unless and until Congress legalizes marijuana, we at the SBDC unfortunately can't really help you a whole lot.
Okay, great. Thanks for that answer. But we can do the CBD. So we do get a lot of questions about CBD products too. So it looks like we can help those businesses, but not if you're direct marijuana businesses. But it may change in the future. So thanks for that answer. So our next question comes from Alvin. So Alvin has a question regarding about hiring employees. He's trying to hire employees and trying to figure out what steps he should take, what's the right forms I should fill out, and things I should do to properly hire employees, not independent contractors, but employees themselves. So Gretchen, I think I'm gonna turn that question to you. Gretchen, do you have a good answer for Alvin?
Well, of course, the first place I would look would be Chapter 6. It actually is very well put together in our starting and operating your business guide, so I do highly recommend it. It walks you through all the processes, all the questions that you need to ask, and literally gives you a checklist of all the agencies that you need to make sure that you've informed them. Like if you start as a sole proprietor, and then now you hired an employee, there are different rules, and it is really important to make sure that you do follow those. But Chapter 6 literally walks you through it A to Z.
Super. Great. Chapter 6 in your startup guide. Make sure you download that startup guide. You can either do it today, you can do it tonight, you can do it at any time. It is free, and we do update that every year, as we talked about. And we have several consultants to our network who specializes in HR that can help answer your questions regarding that as well. Okay, great. So our next question we're going to take a look at, we're going to revisit a question from this morning. So this question is for Alan. It's regarding patents. So this question is from John. And John says, since a patent is a relatively long process, is there anything I can do to protect my product ideas and keep my competitors from using my product?
Patents are important, especially if you're going to try to sell or attract outside money. If you want to keep it internally, you can apply for a patent through the USPTO, the United States Patent Office, which has a big office in downtown Detroit. I would very strongly suggest that before you do anything with regards to intellectual property, that you talk to your local attorney and find out if it is worth it. The SBDC tech team can also assist. We have a tool called Enography, where we can look at the patent landscape and advise if there is a competitive positioning to be gotten by applying a patent. If your technology is in the IT space, I would recommend that it is not worth spending the money for a patent. as the defending an IT patent is virtually impossible and takes a very long time. So it depends on the circumstances. Talk to a patent attorney or talk to an SBDC counselor, and we'll gladly assist you.
Okay, great. Great information to know, and great to know that the SBDC can help with your patent search at that time. So good information to know. So let's turn the conversation to business planning. We got a lot of questions regarding business planning, and this one comes from Golden. And Golden wants to know, how do I really write a solid business plan and make it qualify for grants and funding? So I'm going to throw in a precursor question to that. So I'm going to ask, is the business plan really necessary? And then secondly, we'll jump into Golden's question about how do I write a solid business plan? So let's throw this question to Marie Elliott. Marie, won't you give us your thoughts on business planning?
Well, Ed, first I would say yes, it's important. The business planning process is your roadmap to success. So even if you're not putting a business plan together as a requirement for funding, you still should be putting a business plan together for yourself. You're really mapping out through the business planning process the market feasibility and the financial feasibility of your idea. So I would say yes, a business plan is important. In regards to the second question, how do you put together a solid business plan to maybe increase your chance of success in if you're pitching it for a pitch competition or if you're looking for funding with a bank? You want to address some things as far as what's your story? So where have you already been? Where are you now? And where do you want to go? And you can do that, every business plan, regardless of what template you use, they all contain the key components of a business plan, which is generally your business description, describing your product or service, your marketing section, your operational or management section as far as staffing and, what responsibilities and who's going to do what. And then you have your financial section. So what I feel would be important in creating a solid business plan is a plan that your audience, whoever you're presenting it to, can read it and understand it without talking to you. So you're really getting into you don't have to be there to explain some things, and don't assume that your audience knows your industry. Make sure you're including some of those details.
Okay, great answer. Great answer on that. So kind of a follow-up question to the business plan is more to do with financing. So we had Fred that wrote us a question in, and Fred wanted to know kind of what's the difference in funding between equity funding and the difference between debt financing, equity financing and debt financing. And he wanted to know, is the business plan different for if you're going after one group or the other, or is the business plan pretty much the same? So Julie, I'd like for you to comment on that question.
That's a good question. And generally, the business plan should be pretty much similar because there's so much information that either the equity or the banker would like to know. And so the financials are generally the same. They're all going to want to know how you're going to create the sales, who are your customers, what are your costs. And the only difference, though, as far as equity versus bank is how much equity would you give up during this process, for how much money. Similar to Shark Tank, you're making a pitch, and are you on top of your financials? What is your pitch? Who are your customers? And so on and so forth. So bankers also want to see a very good business plan, like Marie had mentioned, and stating all your mission, your vision, your competitors, so on and so forth. So essentially, to answer the question, yes, a lot of them are the same as far as the information, but just slightly different or financing arrangements.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. So let's take a live question. So We have a gentleman called Russell. He's in the back room. You can't see Russell, so he's handling all the tech for us, and he's going to post a question for us. So Russell, can you post a live question from our audience for us? Let's read that one. So let's see. This is from Emily. Now Emily says, are there COVID-19 grants or programs for nonprofit art organizations that don't have employees, but that benefit the artists and the public? And it basically says their main source of income went away last year, and this one is more the same. This year's more the same. And so they're asking about two questions here. So I want to address this. Number one, I want to know from my panel what we do or don't do with kind of the nonprofit sector. And then number two, answering the question in terms of, are there COVID-19 grants or programs out there for nonprofit groups? So Rita, do you want to take a stab at this one?
Okay. Well, in terms of whether or not there are COVID programs out there for nonprofit groups, yes, there are. In terms of looking at the nonprofit arts organizations, if you don't have any employees, I guess the question would be whether or not you were impacted by COVID because maybe you service the community at large and you had individuals within the community that attended some of your shows and because of COVID and not being able to have large gatherings, you had to close down. So there are some new provisions in the CARES Act for that. In terms of if your main sources of income have gone away and whether or not this is going to be one and the same in terms of the type of funding that you get, no, there are differences. For example, if you're getting the bulk of your funding, which maybe covers events, maybe it covers, since you don't have employees, it may cover some of the general costs for the nonprofit. So when you are getting any kind of funding as it relates to the pandemic, there are categories of what they're willing to spend the funding on. Maybe if you have a lease, any rental, but it also maybe some utilities, things like that. But there's another part of it that could be a little tricky, I think, for nonprofits, because there still becomes the issue of the nonprofit having to provide their financials. So in fact, once you have to start repaying back any of the economic support that you get, if it is in fact in terms of a economic injury disaster loan, then that becomes another issue. So if you really have more in-depth questions, this is something that you really should be working with the SBDC consultant on so that we can make sure that we identify all the little push points that need to be addressed before you attempt to apply for any COVID funding.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rita. Does the SBDC typically work with nonprofits?
Typically, we do not. However, if the nonprofit actually has employees, the nonprofit typically may be someone that we would work with. So in the instance as to whether or not this nonprofit, they don't have any employees. However, I would think that in COVID, I would still provide them with the information that they need, despite the fact that we typically do not work for nonprofits that do not have employees and are not trying to grow their employee base.
Okay, great. And I think one of those funding programs you were talking about is the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant from the SBA. That's about to come out next month. for shuttered venues. If you're a nonprofit and operate a live venue like that, you still would be eligible to apply. So keep an eye out for the shuttered venue operator grant coming out next month in April, we heard.
Ed, I had a comment also onto that. It's not considered a grant, but the PPP loan also is another option for non-employer type nonprofit organizations. They can also apply and be approved for the PPP loan, which can be forgivable as well and can essentially turn into a grant. So although not considered a loan itself, they are eligible. They just have to meet some requirements for the loan itself, a certain number of employees, and expending those funds according to the rules governed by the PPP and SBA. So, but they can also qualify in lieu of any available grants. So I just want to add that comment as well.
Super. That's great information. So let's take one more question from our live audience. So Russell, if you're in the back, can you throw up another question for us from our live audience today? Okay, so Mosetta. So this is a question from Mosetta. It says, what kind of insurance should I be looking into for a lawn care startup? What kind of insurance should I be looking to in a lawn care startup? So let's take that back to let's go to Sean. Sean, what do you think about that?
So that's a good question, Mosetta. Insurance is usually based on first, I would recommend contacting a local insurance company to get a quote. I always recommend going through your local chamber. They have member lists. You don't have to be a member to have access to the member list. I always recommend that because usually those people are really involved, and they're also someone that you can contact and talk to the same person every time you have an insurance related question. Now, when you call that agent, they're going to ask you what you do, and then they're going to base your insurance on your NAICS code. So NAICS is the North American Industry Classification System. It's a code set up that kind of describes your business and also kind of has that liability kind of connection with it. So the insurance agent can help you sort that out and figure what the best policy is for you. So it'll depend on whether you have employees, whether you own a building, whether you have a lot of equipment or assets. So there could be different policies or different things that you'll need for that. Insurance for an automobile would be another example. So call your local agent. Again, use the chamber. It's a good source to find those local agents, and they are usually pretty good at finding the right type of insurance for your business.
Super. Thank you for that answer, Sean. Thank you for that question, Mosetta. At this time, we're going to take a short commercial break for a couple of minutes, and then we'll be back with more questions from the audience and prepared questions on Ask the Consultant. So stay tuned.
Well, my name is Avery Green. I am the owner and founder of House of Pariah, which is a sustainable fashion startup. I didn't start selling anything online until COVID happened. So I was getting ready to start selling. I was in the production process for doing underwear and basic stuff. And then everything had to be put on hold because of COVID. And so I pivoted and started doing masks. And so that was the first thing I started offering, was doing my mask, which is I think it was a good thing because it helped me step back, and now I've worked out kinks that I didn't know were there. So starting off with the mask and something smaller like that really helped me make my online presence stronger and my website stronger. The ways that I kind of decompress, right, is I'm so lucky to have a very supportive family. My parents are both very supportive of everything that I do. They back me up when I need it, and they are just always there for me. And I also have my boyfriend, Jacob. I couldn't have done any of these things without him and without his support. And I always recommend reaching out for help because, you can't do everything. You don't have all of the skills and all the talents to run a business just by yourself. So if you feel like you're burning the candle at two ends, I would definitely reach out for help.
Great, and welcome back to Ask the Consultant. We're going to take more of your questions at this time. I'm going to ask a few of the prepared questions that was sent in to us. So I want to start out with a question regarding restaurants. So we know the restaurant community and the food service community has been hit very hard. So in the new stimulus package that just got passed, there is a restaurant revitalization fund, I believe, that's going to be coming out. And I want to ask the consultants, what do they know about that fund at this time, and what they can expect of it, and what else is in that stimulus package that will be available for small business? So I'm gonna start the questioning out with Marie. Marie, do you know much about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund?
Well, I have a few details, Ed, but certainly not all of them. They're still working on, the application process, what that's going to look like. But you're right. It's part of the American Rescue Plan, and it's the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. It's about $28.6 billion. The National Restaurant Association is saying that it's probably not going to fully assist all of the operators, restaurant operators. So it's going to be somewhat competitive. It's going to be direct funding, where unlike the PPP, where you go to a financial lending institution to apply, you're going to apply directly to the SBA. There's also, I believe, $5 billion that is set aside for minority, veteran, women-owned business, and they're going to kind of have priority, a certain window for priority application. And I want to say that window is maybe 14 days. One of the recommendations right now that the National Restaurant Association is saying is, if you think you're going to apply for those funds, you should go out and register for your DUNS number and also your SAMS number. And the SBDC can assist with both of those. The reason why they're saying to start looking at that right now is because the DUNS number usually takes about 1 to 2 days to get that, but the SAMS number is a little longer process. It could be up to 2 weeks before you actually have you're registered with SAMS. That's about all the information I know right now. You can go to restaurantact.com, and they've got some a PDF of a fact sheet of what they know right now. I believe the expectation or some of the time estimation is mid to late April, possibly, when the applications may be available. But again, that's just an estimation at this time. I don't know if anyone else in the group has any other information. That's what I know about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund.
Marie, you're correct. We're all waiting for SBA guidance on this, but let's get prepared. Make sure you have all your information, your tax returns, or your profit and loss from 2019 to 2020, similar to what your Paycheck Protection Program or the PPP loans. So you should have a lot of that information already to go, because it may be similar to the first tranche of PPP funds, if you remember that a year ago, where the funds went very quickly. So please make sure you have everything ready to go to apply for that. Also, forgiven PPP loans are included in 2020 revenue. So make sure that you keep track of that as well. I've also gotten several questions about who can apply for this. It is only grants to the restaurants or food trucks, bars, brew pubs, and other eligible entities, not the vendors or the suppliers, only the food eating establishments. And it's to cover payroll, rent, utilities, food costs, and other expenses essential to operations. It's not for purchasing anything or new restaurants or new equipment. It's just to maintain the operations of your restaurant at this time.
Okay, great. Thanks, Julie. So once again, the anticipation is that this money is going to go quickly once it comes available. So start getting ready is what I'm hearing our consultants say on that. So great response to that. So I want to turn a question over to I want to turn this one over to Daryl, I think. So Daryl, this has to do with a lot of the COVID-19 related grants and things that businesses may have received in 2020, either the PPP loans or grants from the state of Michigan, and so forth. Is that money, is all that money taxable if you got a grant from the state of Michigan or from the SBA or PPP? Is that taxable money?
Well, I think the great part of the money they received from PPP, the changes that were made, they did take that into consideration. That money is not taxable. Another point to make: if you received money and you use that money through PPP and you paid expenses, those expenses also can still be deducted from your income tax. So that's a great double benefit for having the PPP funds. The grants is also normally would not be taxable. I would say if you're unsure if those grants are taxable, I would follow up with where you got those grants and make a determination whether or not they're taxable. But for the money you receive from the SBA, no, they are not taxable. Here again, like I say, you get double benefit because you're not taxable, but you can also utilize them in your determine your income expenses for the year, so you can deduct those from your income and ultimately lower your taxable income. And so that was taken into consideration. A lot of major businesses kind of shunned from applying from those PPP loans because they wasn't sure if they were going to be also deductible for tax purposes. And they use those funds and those deductions to qualify for certain credits. They could potentially have been eliminated from those if they were no longer deductible. So to answer your question, no, they are not taxable generally. And I specifically, if you had a specific grant you're referring to that you got, I would say follow up to ensure that they're not taxable. Also, if it's a state grant, but the SBA funds are not taxable and they are deductible for income tax purposes. Great double benefit.
Great answer. Thank you for that response. So
and I'd like to add to that if I can. I actually had a client that received MEDC grants. So there were several MEDC grants this past year: the Relief, Restart, Pure Michigan Initiative, and then the Survival Grant. And those are taxable according to the MEDC. So Daryl's absolutely right. You want to check with the source. So for those of you that are on the call that it may be an MEDC grant, those are taxable.
Okay, great. So you kind of want to check it. It really kind of depends on which one you got there. So just be careful and make sure you know which ones are taxable and which ones that are not. Okay, great. So I'm gonna throw this next question back to Christy. So Christy, this question comes from Jay. And if I was to put this question in a form like a Dear John letter, it would go something like this: Dear Ed, I've had it! Exclamation point. Frustration. I've done everything over the past year I could do to try to keep my business afloat, but unfortunately, I've decided to close it. Now, at some other time in the future, I may decide to get in business again, but I just think I'm gonna just hang up the sheets right now. Is there something I should be doing to close my business down properly? If I'm not gonna sell it, I'm just gonna close it up. What should I be doing?
Oh yeah, and this is where we should sit down with a cup of coffee and a 90-minute Zoom call one-on-one, because it truly depends on your business. John or whomever's writing this Dear Ed letter.
That was Jay.
Is primarily about protecting your credit and protecting your personal assets from exposure to business credit claims from business creditors. That's your primary concern. If you have debts outstanding, if you have outstanding contracts that you're obligated to pay, such as a lease or an equipment lease or a vendor contract or outstanding payables such as utilities or any money that you owe that you can't pay, that's when I would say speak to an attorney and talk about alternatives to bankruptcy. In other words, workouts. Working out issues with creditors when you're having trouble paying bills sometimes can be done voluntarily. Some creditors will work with you. Some creditors will create payment plans voluntarily. You don't always have to go to bankruptcy. There may not be a benefit to bankruptcy, and bankruptcy might be too expensive. So what I suggest all of our clients do is create a personal balance sheet. Just like you'd create a balance sheet for your business, do one for your business and then also do one personally, because what are your personal assets and what are your personal liabilities? What business liabilities are personally guaranteed? And what is your level of exposure? So understanding The extent to which you have personal liability for business debts is very important, and the ability to pay those, because if you do plan to go back in business again, it will depend on your personal credit as well as any business credit history you may have. Definitely take a look at our comeback kit at sbdcmichigan.org. There's some really interesting information and walk-through, self-paced information for you to walk through there, including something called a Z-score you might be curious about. That should pique your interest to take a look at the comeback kit. And if you still have questions after that, feel free to get in touch with an SBDC consultant, talk through your individual questions, and then we'll probably point you to an attorney who understands debtor-creditor relationships and even possibly bankruptcy.
Ed?
Yes, jump in.
Yeah, Ed, you know, I went through this in a business that I owned years ago. I had a photography business, and when digital came along, it was similar to COVID right now, and it's a scary time. And so, you know, your Dear Ed letter, you know, they've already made that decision, but there's a lot of folks out there right now that are, you know, they're trying to figure out, is it time for me to consider that? And there's so many steps, you know, before you get to that final decision. And this is where it's critical for you to know your numbers, to understand kind of your benchmarks and what are your crossroads. Because, you know, you get to a certain point, you feel like you're digging a grave. Well, you can dig a 6-foot grave, or you can keep digging that, you know, to a 10 or 12-foot grave. And a lot of entrepreneurs are going to pick themselves up, and they're going to find something new down the road, to try and venture into. And so Christy is absolutely right. Trying to protect your personal credit score, trying to make sure that you're doing everything possible to make smart financial decisions right now, and doing those by knowing your numbers, knowing where you're at, and setting goals and benchmarks for yourself, and working with your SBDC consultant to get that third person point of view is critical when we're in this current economic situation that so many businesses are facing.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for that response. Great. Let's take another live question from our audience, another live question. So, Russell, can you show us another live question? Okay. This is from Melissa. She says, I have a tax ID number and a FIN number. Are those the same? Or is this the same as a sales tax license? And also, if you have registered your business with the state of Michigan, do you have to get a local business license? So there's about 3 questions wrapped up in that. So Michael, you're already talking. So Mike, you want to address this question about the tax ID numbers and the FIN? Are they the same thing as a sales?
Yeah, they are. And so basically, you know, unfortunately, this is a depends question. So if you're looking at creating a sole proprietorship, you head down to the county clerk's office, you basically register with the county clerk and take an oath, give them $12 to $15, and you're a sole proprietor. If you are an LLC or an S Corp or a C corporation, then, you know, you are registered with, you know, your business is now registered with the state of Michigan, and that tax ID and EIN number, you know, serve as your quote unquote business social security number. One tip that I can offer is that you can hire your accountant or your lawyer to do that for you, and there's usually a pretty substantial charge to do that. Or you can sign up for the SBDC, and we can show you how to walk through both those processes. And other than the registration fee of the state of Michigan would charge, there's no other cost to you for our service.
So Ed, I just want to jump in here real quick. The sales tax license is actually different. So you're going to, if you have, when you start a business, you can get you'll have an EIN number. You can open your business checking account. If you're selling products, then you would file for a separate license. The sales tax license is called the sales use and withholding license. So you would file that if you collect sales tax or use tax, and if you have withholding tax. So you would need to register separately for that. Now, if you are selling goods, if you're purchasing product to make goods that you're then going to sell to somebody else, which would be the end user, you may also need a certificate of exemption, a sales tax certificate of exemption. So that's a form that you can get off the government website. And I think a colleague of ours, posted a link in on the Facebook comment section. But that certificate you can fill out and present it. You don't have to present it to the state or turn it in, but you can present it to the company that you're purchasing goods from to then create your good to sell to the end user. So again, sales tax is only collected if you're selling to the end user. So if you have a situation like that, you may want to consider that so you're not paying sales tax and then charging and collecting it and paying it again. So do you want me to just continue on with the other part of the question?
No, let's take a break right now. We're
Okay.
going to another short commercial break, and then we'll come back after that and continue our questions for our great panelists. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
My name is Kelly Osborne, and my husband Troy and I have more companies than children, and that's saying a lot because we have 5 kids. We own companies all the way from engineering firms to property management to corporate catering companies, and we actually started a whole new company during COVID, literally the week COVID hit. So talk about taking advantage of an opportunity. We start companies simply for the focus of workplace engagement and organizational health. We believe that innovation comes from limitation. So we did not want to waste this crisis. We wanted to gain some muscle from it. It's all how you seize the opportunity. And I want to take that lightly. I don't want that to sound ostentatious of us, but there is opportunity and you do have to dig for it, especially if you want to survive, right? What we did quickly is partnered with some of our previous clients like Covenant Hospital. They rolled out an initiative to support small restaurants and businesses and caterers. And we joined forces with them, and we were taking over twice a week huge quantities of meals to Covenant healthcare workers. It kept our employees going. We were allowed then to file for the PPP and use it. It was such a great relationship during that time. I mean, we became so innovative. I mean, we're a corporate caterer, LPGA, NBC, big, huge events like that. There are none. A beauty of being an entrepreneur is that you can pivot, you can adjust. We are so nimble as entrepreneurs that we can quickly change gears and realize, wow, I mean, even Nestle Toll House cookies were made through limitation. They didn't have the right ingredients. And look, we've been making those for probably 100 years now.
And welcome back to Ask the Consultant. We're going to continue on with our questions for our great panelists here and try to squeeze as many questions as we can within the last 15 minutes or so. So this question is from Kim. Kim says, can you please share some tips and tools for a new business owner on maintaining books, learning about acceptable expenses, and learning about how to pay myself as the only employee? So maintaining books, learning about acceptable expenses, and learning how to pay myself as the only employee. It's a lot there. So Julie, why don't you take a stab at this question or parts of the question, and maybe one of the other consultants can pick up another.
Well, congratulations for thinking about starting a business. I would certainly suggest that you either get with a SBDC consultant to assist you in setting up your chart of accounts or setting up your books. So it is very important that you find out what your plan is, and then also get an accounting software such as QuickBooks to help you during this process. It's relatively inexpensive to obtain the software. And then as far as depending on what your business is, you want to determine what type of accounts and what type of sales accounts, and breaking down the types of sales that you may be coming in. And then to answer your question with your expenses would be all your business expenses, like your cost of goods sold or cost of sales, and any expenses that would be attributable to product costs, or overhead, meaning rent or utilities. So there's a whole list of expenses that we can assist you with. Or if you'd like, you can always also get with your accountant, or we can make suggestions to help you find an accountant to help you set that up as well. So either way, SBDC or your accountant, feel free to go to our michigansbdc.org website and sign up for counseling, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
Okay, great answer.
I just to add one to that, Ed. Also, even before you get to that stage, think about developing a budget for your business itself. It's kind of a preliminary step even before you start thinking about, implementing an accounting application as well. So you can use simple templates as well, and become familiar with the different expense categories that you might be applicable for your business. So start off at that initial step, and I would echo also using QuickBooks can be very easy. And I would just differentiate between using a desktop applications versus online application. The online application actually is a little bit more easier to understand from a layman's perspective if you don't have a background in accounting. So, and we've got experts that can help set you up in your QuickBooks as well. If you're just starting out, that's basically what they do. So I would just put that plug in for SBDC.
Great.
I'd like to just, I'm going to add real quickly to that. Daryl made a great point of contacting the SBDC and having some help. So with QuickBooks, it's kind of presented as this really easy solution for people to operate and do their own books. But if you've never done books before and you don't know the difference between a debit and a credit, you're likely to make mistakes. And the more, when you compound mistakes in a program like that, you're just compounding the problem. And then when you figure out finally that you do have a really big problem, to actually hire someone to do forensic accounting and really sort you out is going to cost way more money than it would cost you to maybe hire someone to do those books for you, or to at least train you how to do it, set it up and train you to do the transactions. Again, just if you don't have any background in bookkeeping, really try to seek some help to get that set up and learn how to use it correctly in the beginning.
Good. Mike, you had a comment?
Yeah, just real quick. I wanted to compliment Julie for looking at getting a paycheck out of her business. As consultants, we deal with a fair amount of folks that one of their biggest challenges is, getting paid. And for her to already be talking about putting that as part of her projections, I just want to tip my hat to her. But more importantly, to anybody out there that is, has a business that they aren't getting paid in, that's a crossroad that you want to contact your SBDC consultant and review what ways you can change your business model so that you start putting money back into your pocket.
Fantastic. So I want to turn it over to Alan right quick on our tech team. So we often are getting this question, and this one comes from Jim. He says, I'm an inventor, and I think I've came up with a new process for sanitizing equipment, with the COVID situation. He's trying to figure out, is this really a good idea that's fundable? Would it be considered an advanced technology type of product? Or how do you determine whether he's got something or not, if you kind of come up with an idea? And we get a lot of inventor types or people that come to us that are asking that type of question. So Alan, what are your thoughts on that?
The state of Michigan is very receptive to inventors, and there is a very extensive inventor network that is active. And I would recommend that you look at your local chapters of the inventor network to build the connections. Secondly, to find out as to who in that network is ready to invest. I also want to say that there is a difference between an inventor and a high-tech business. And with the partners that we have at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the high-tech businesses are supported by the state if there is intellectual property. The Inventor Network is unfortunately not as well supported by the MEDC, but there is money available for investors through, as I said, the Investor Network. And if there's any questions, I will make the information available so that we can assist you.
Okay, great. So there's a difference between inventors and advanced tech companies. So keep that in mind. And there are also resources for each. So please keep that in mind. So our next question is coming from Marcia. Now, Marcia says, I'm trying to start my small apparel brand. I work with different local and foreign manufacturers to get their estimates and samples. She wants to know, where can I find the correct information about custom fees if I decide to work with overseas companies? Where can I find the correct information about custom fees if I decide to work with overseas companies? She's starting a small apparel brand. So let's take it to Gretchen. Do you have any suggestions for Marcia?
Well, I will definitely say when I first hear international, that adds a layer of complexity, but that's also really exciting. Michigan, we're known to be a manufacturing state, so there's a lot of support from us at SBDC and MEDC if there's a possibility that we're not just importing, but maybe we're also going to be doing some exporting. But there are a lot of different things that are involved in that. So we'd recommend making contact, especially if you're kind of starting from zero. There's a lot of things to make sure you're covering when you're bringing in goods from other places. And especially if you're going to line up your supply chain, there are some things that you want to be prepared for. Certainly we're aware of that in the news, that if you've got orders you're ready to fill, but you've got a gap in your supply chain because you didn't have things set up properly from the get-go, that's where we would definitely say reach out. Don't try to go alone on something that complex. But it's exciting.
Okay, super. Anyone else got any suggestions for Marcia in terms of best way to do exporting or importing?
I would also suggest that they talk to the MMTC, the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center in Plymouth. They have a support organization that basically looks at both import and export. And I'm 99% certain that taxation levels are part of their support infrastructure.
Okay, great, thank you. So great, we have time probably for about 2 more questions. So this question comes from Christy. So Christy would like to know, what is the best way to get a financial health assessment? She says, I'm looking for someone to help me gauge where I am and where I need to be in building an actionable roadmap to get there. So she's looking for a financial health assessment. So Daryl, can SBDC help with that, financial assessments?
We do that all the time for startup business, existing businesses. You can schedule a one-on-one consulting session at no cost. I emphasize at no cost, and we can go through a number of questions and try to determine where you are financially with you in your business. We'll try and develop some strategies to either, depending on what your goals are for your business, to try to reach that. We can certainly look at your budget, your P&Ls, if you have profit and loss statements. We can do projections as well. We can just kind of ascertain where you are financially and develop some long-term goals. I do stress that we kind of do it in conjunction with the client as well. So, we need your participation just so that, we have an accurate strategy that's going to help you in your planning. But we've got certainly a number of financial tools that we have at our disposal, and it can help develop, a fair assessment of where you are financially, and develop some long-term goals for you financially as well, either, with your business, and, they're very successful. So first off, start off, just schedule a no-cost consulting sessions with one of our consultants, and we can take it from there.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Thanks for the response.
Hey, can I punt this to Christy? because I think this would be an opportunity to talk about Focus 4.
Yeah, Christy, Focus 4.
Oh, thanks so much, John. I love it. Yes, for sure. We have a program called Focus 4, and it's an ebook. It's a free download, sbdcmichigan.org/focus4. And the 4 focuses are vision, strategy, execution, and cash flow. So that is a very simple, and back to the person who was asking the accounting question, if you're new to accounting, Focus 4 and the cash flow section is the greatest little tiny Cliff's notes about business financials and bookkeeping and record keeping and understanding your financial reports and what they mean for you. And this is just a great way to know if your business is healthy, if there is a, what your valuation, what the cash flow means for your valuation of your business as an investment. And then also benchmarking your business against other businesses in your industry. And we can do that as part of that Focus 4 program or independently. So those benchmarks we pull from, like back to Daryl, he said we have a couple of different tools available. One is Profit Sense, for example. But as part of Focus 4, getting your cash flow under control and understandable, manageable with the budget that Daryl mentioned, all of that comes in that program that is a truly holistic business planning opportunity for you and your small business.
Great, thanks for that. And we're going to have to wrap it up at this point. My God, where's the time gone? 1 hour goes by so fast. We still have many questions to answer from our audience. Once again, if your question did not get asked on live, we will follow up with you after the broadcast sometime to get your specific question asked. We want to thank you for joining us. Please engage with the SBDC. The best way to do that is go to our website at sbdcmichigan.org, sbdcmichigan.org. So you can request consulting, you can look at trainings, you can download templates that we have there, just a ton of information. We are here for your business success. We thank you for joining us for this Ask the Consultant and look forward to future events like this on the road. So have a great rest of the evening, everybody, and happy St. Patrick's Day, and most importantly, happy SBDC Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Bye, everyone.